Plurilingualism. Now, attached to this concept of or the model of dynamic bilingualism is the concept of plurilingualism. So, what does plurilingualism mean? Plurilingualism, as the title shows, relates to knowing and using of multiple languages at the same time for different functions. Although plurilingualism relates to or seems to relate to the skill of using languages, it actually has two aspects. One aspect, as we talked about, relates to the skill of using languages, and the other aspect relates to the whole value system that is embedded in this construct. So, coming to this competence and skill of plurilingualism, it has been highly encouraged by Common European Framework of References for Languages, in which they insist that the learners in educational institutions learn multiple languages so that they are able to interact with the wider global world for a greater interconnection, networking, and socio-economic mobility. So plurilingualism is seen as an asset. And more as when you apply for these international organizations, they often ask you that the number of languages that you know, and they actually highlight their preferences for certain languages. But knowing multiple languages or being a plurilingual is actually very helpful in these circumstances. Now, apart from plurilingualism as a competence which has to do with how much proficiency you have, how much you can use the language, and all about this concerns, there is this embedded value system in plurilingualism which needs to be encouraged. And this has to be tolerance of other languages. Not just languages, but also inevitably comes the value or tolerance of difference. Different people, different cultures, because a language relates to the identity of the speaker. So, when plurilingualism is encouraged, we accept that people are different. We are more engaged with them. We are less judgmental about them. And we see that there are other ways of talking about the same thing. And it is okay to have a different perspective to a certain thing that is being discussed, within understanding that it is a possibility that both of them might be correct. So it comes through accepting language, it comes through accepting of people who language differently from us, and this has to do with the ability to acknowledge and legitimize the use of different languages. So it takes us back to this concept of dynamic languaging. So if, for instance, you go to an educational institution or workplace where somebody is constantly shifting from one language to the other, so instead of judging that person as something, abnormal, we accept it as a norm, and we accept that it is okay to language differently. Because the main thing is the task itself, and it's not the language. This is helpful in going beyond the concept of balanced bilingualism that insists that if you want to project yourself to be a bilingual, you need to have equal high proficiency in both languages or multiple languages. It brings home this concept of hybrid language use, which is what actually happens in real life. So when we are talking about plurilingualism and we are talking about hybrid language use, what we are doing is just accepting the linguistic reality of the world of bilinguals. This is exactly what we do in real life. And when we don't do it in the informal institutions, we are somehow pretending to be something else or someone else. So the plurilingualism is actually accepting this difference. There is also this concept of polyglot dialogue or receptive bilingualism. Now, what is this concept? It says, for instance, in Sweden and Denmark, you have communities who can understand each other, although they are speaking different languages. So we can come to a situation in which we might not be able to speak someone's language, yet we might be able to understand someone's language, which is different from ours. So this situation is called polyglot dialogue or receptive bilingualism. Receptive because we are not actually expressing ourselves in the other's language, but we are able to understand what is being said in a language that we don't really speak.